Welcome! In this series of short videos, we will look at topics common to both the PowerBasic console and Windows compilers. Today, we will look at using the select case command to control program flow. The select command is a very powerful and flexible mechanism for controlling program flow in your application. You will probably use the if statement in your programs before to implement conditional logic. Well, the select statement can work in very much the same way, and it makes your code quite readable. What we're going to do today is we're going to generate randomly some numbers and some letters, and we're going to use a select case block to make decisions. So the first thing we'll do, we will create two little functions whose job it is to return a number and a letter. These are very simple using the random number generator. First of all, the getNumber will decide on a number between 1 and 100, and it will return that number and display it in our log. The letter will do much the same. It will decide on a number between 65 and 90, which are the ASCII codes for uppercase A to uppercase Z. It will display them on the log and return it to our calling function. So we can clearly see what's going on, we're going to create a function first of all to select a number. Now this select number function has three variables, long A, long B and a looping variable, because we're going to loop through this 5 times. We'll use long B as a constant in this subroutine, and we'll make it equal to the value 20. And we're going to loop through this 5 times, so we'll set a little for next loop up to do our looping. So what we want to do first of all is to get a number from our random routine. So we're going to use long A to be equal to our function. So as we saw, this will return a number between 1 and 100. Now we want to put some conditional logic in here, so we can decide what to do when the number is in certain ranges. So we could do this in an if statement, quite a complicated if statement, but we're going to use the select case block today. And we're selecting on the value of long A. Now we want to work out what the value of long A is within certain ranges and perform calls to our log. So we use a case statement, and we're going to do if the case is in a range, in other words between the values 2 and 10, and if the value is 11, you don't need to put the word is, but you can put it in if it makes it easier to follow your logic. Now, what we've got so far is we have 3 case statements. So if the value of long A is between 2 and 10 inclusive, then any code following this will be executed. So we'll put a message out to the log. This is obviously calling a function, so you could be calling any function to perform any logic you wish. And of course you can have multiple lines of code following this before the next case statement. So all we're going to do here is we're testing the value of long A. If it's between 2 and 10 inclusive, then we'll send a message out to our log. We'll do exactly the same if the value is exactly 11. And for this third one, this is a special one. Since we've set the value of long B at 20, then this case statement will be testing between 11 and 20. Now if it's exactly 11, we'll never get here because the case is 11 will actually operate. So we're going to make this one 12. And if that case is true, we will print out to our log this piece of text. Now, as this is a variable, this means every time we come into this piece of logic, this value could indeed be different. And we can also put in ranges which include specific numbers. So in this case statement, if it's 21 or 23 or 25 or 27 to 40, then this will execute. And then if it's any other value, you can use a case else to pick that up. So if it's any one of these specific ranges or numbers, these individual blocks will actually kick in. If it's any other value, then we'll come down to here. And at the very end, we will put a blank line at the end of our log. So if we try running that now, we'll just save that into the live location. There we go, and we will run it. There we go, it's showing us the number generated, first of all, is 5, and this is between 2 and 10. Next one is 67, so it drops into the else clause, as do all the others. Let's see if we can pick up some of the other ones. There we go, that's between 2 and 10. And we'll try one more run. There we go, there's our variable 1. So the value generated here was 20, and it is indeed between 12 and the value of long b, which happens to be 20. And number 33 is between 27 and 40. So you'll see that in a very few lines of code, we've actually managed to do quite a lot of conditional logic. Now we can do exactly the same with strings. So we will create a very similar function to perform the action strings. We will comment out our number for the moment, and we will look at the strings. Now, with strings, it's exactly the same logic. We're still using the 3 variables. We're using string A, string B, and our looping variable. We're setting the value of string B to be the constant g. We're looping around 5 times, and the logic I've put in here will start off with the logic like this. We're getting a letter from our random routine, and we're putting it into string A. We're then doing a select case statement on string A, and if the value is between the letters B and F, this will execute. If it's the value of what string B happens to be, which is G, this will execute. If it's F, T, or between Q and U inclusive, then this will execute. Everything else will execute the else clause. So if we run that one, we'll see H became else clause, the R is between Q and U, the Z is the else clause, the B is between B and F, and the B came out the second time as well. Now, as you'll see from the logic I put in, we can also comment out these 2 lines, and in the select case statement, it doesn't have to be a variable. It can indeed be a function, which returns the value you're interested in. So this gives you a lot of flexibility. Now, if we have a look at the select statement in the help file, you'll see all the logic we've been discussing, plus a little more. Some of the parameters you can have in the case statement are optional. For example, you can declare as long, as constant $, or as constant $. Now these are used to optimize your code. If the case statement is dealing with numbers, it will handle any number it's given. If you specify as long, then the case expressions must evaluate to be a long integer. Now, this does enhance your performance of the logic and should make the code run that little bit faster. So if you're executing this particular select case statement a great number of times, then obviously each iteration will take a certain length of time to do. And if you're optimizing it using the as long, when you expect only to receive long numbers coming back, then it will run just that little bit faster each time it runs. So if you're running a case statement many times, then I would suggest you use the as long. The same going for strings. But if you leave these options out, the code will still execute. So this has been a short introduction to select case statements. That's it for today. Thank you for watching.